Death on the doorstep. A special police constable killed in cold blood.
I knew there's no way that she's going to make this.
What first looked like a burglary gone wrong became a tale of murder for hire.
He was what you may call an enforcer.
Tonight, the inside story of Nisha Patel's death, a tale of lust.
He clearly was, you know, a lover of the ladies.
Of betrayal.
Someone has got to know something.
And murder in the family.
There's no words to describe that betrayal because she loved him so much. She loved him so much.
Wembley, bustling suburb of Britain's capital city and a mecca for a nation of football fans. Wembley's used to making headlines on the sports pages. But in the spring of 2006, it was to dominate the front pages. Shortly before midnight on May the 11th, police received reports of a stabbing in a quiet residential street. For the Met's Homicide and Serious Crime Command, this scene in Sudbury Avenue would mark the start of a sensational investigation. For the victim was one of their own, Special Constable Nisha Patel Nasri.
It was absolutely chaotic. Obviously police everywhere, cordon tapes, blood on the pavement, blood outside the home.
Initially, we were told there was a stab wound, and she'd lost a large amount of blood.
The 29-year-old Special had moved to the house only recently. Her husband Faddy had been out playing snooker with a friend that night, and he had learned of the stabbing through a call to his mobile.
Faddy Nasri was extremely upset about what happened to his wife. There was blood on the pavement outside the house, which he could have seen from where he was. It was a huge shock to him.
One street away, Nisha's brother Caton was woken from his bed.
I started running towards my sister's house. I could see like trails of blood running up to the house. I've never seen that much blood in my lifetime before. I knew there's no way that she's going to make this.
With Nisha's life hanging by a thread, paramedics rushed her to Northwick Park Hospital in Middlesex. Caton and Faddy followed, waiting anxiously for news.
Within 5 minutes, the doctor came in and said she has lost a lot of blood. We're trying our best. So they went back out of the room. And within a minute, they came back in. They shook their head.
"30 minutes after being admitted to hospital, Nisha Patel Nasri was pronounced dead, killed by a single knife wound to the groin.
It was my little sister who I was supposed to protect and look after, and I felt that I had failed. I put my hand on Faddy's shoulder, and I said to him, "Don't worry, I'll look after you now."
The police were now dealing with the murder of a fellow officer. By the next day, her death was leading the national news.
Fighting for her community, the Special Constable murdered on her doorstep. Nisha Patel Nasri's passion was tackling crime in her neighbourhood. It ended in tragedy, just yards from the safety of her home.
As the media descended on Sudbury Avenue, DCI Nick Scola and his team began analysing the crime scene.
When you looked inside the house, Everything seemed to be orderly. There was no sign of any forced entry. And nothing seemed to have been stolen either.
The blood started in the parking area outside the front door, so it looked like she'd been stabbed there. In the kitchen there were 2 knife blocks. One of them was a John Lewis knife block, and missing from that was a rather large kitchen knife. So automatically we started looking at that, potentially as the murder weapon or something that the suspect may have taken away from them.
While the forensics team searched for clues, other officers began collecting witness statements. The most significant came from a neighbour who'd seen a man fleeing immediately after the stabbing.
The witness described them as a thick-set man, possibly Afro-Caribbean, with a hood up. And they ran away from the scene without looking back.
2 other witnesses described seeing a similar figure before the attack.
They saw a man walk past them twice. He'd clearly been walking around the block before he turned towards Nisha's house, and they heard screaming a little while afterwards.
These were useful leads about to become even more promising, because police soon learnt there'd been an attempted break-in at the house 5 days earlier. According to Nisha's brother Caton, 2 men tried to trick her into opening up and then used a crowbar in an attempt to force the lock before leaving. One of those men sounded strikingly familiar.
One of the males was described as a large built black male with a hood. So they matched the description of the man who'd been seen running away from the scene on the 11th.
The attempted break-in the Saturday before is too big a coincidence not to be linked.
Following this unsettling incident, Caton begged Nisha to leave her house and return to live with him.
But the way Nisha is, no, she wanted to stay where she was. She's like, this is my house, I'll protect my house. She was a bit too brave for her own good.
On the night of the murder, the intruder appeared to have known that the door frame was too strong to break down. So he'd used a simpler method of entry.
One of the things that we were told at an early stage by Fadi Nasri was that there was a key missing. It was possibly the key that had been used to get into the address.
Fadi?
Detectives now had a description of the attacker and an explanation of how he'd gained entry. But why had he killed Nisha? A burglary gone wrong did not seem to fit the evidence.
In the sitting room, there was a large amount of money, £350, and there were credit cards and checkbooks there, and Nisha's phones were there. If it had been a robbery, or if it had been a burglary, then it was likely those things would have been taken.
We've decided it's definitely not.
Because nothing had been stolen from the house and the vehicles outside hadn't been interfered with, finding a motive was clearly a very important step towards solving the murder.
The day after Nisha's death, a possible motive did emerge. Police obtained a recording of a menacing phone call made to Nisha's husband, Fadi, just weeks earlier. It suggested that both their lives were under threat.
You've made the biggest mistake of your life, because your throat will be slit tonight. So get your bitch your wife out of your house now, and I'm not joking. You with the wrong person here, pal. With the wrong person.
24 hours after the murder of Special Constable Nisha Patel Nasri, and the investigation was gathering pace. Police had identified a possible murder weapon missing from her kitchen, and they had a description of a hooded suspect seen running away from the house. But as they searched for a motive, Nisha's husband Fadi delivered some extraordinary information. There'd been death threats against them both, and he had the proof.
He spoke to me about an incident he'd had in relation to a business deal with a woman who lived in Scotland.
Fadi and Nisha ran a limousine hire company from their home. 2 months before the murder, they'd sold one of their rental vehicles to a Scottish company, but the deal had gone sour.
Part of the deal was that in the future the car would be returned to Fadi for a short period of time so he could complete a number of rentals that he had set in place. But unfortunately, because the car had been sold to them in not good condition, they refused to return it to him.
A few days later, Fadi had driven to Scotland and tracked down the limousine. He then repossessed it, driving it back south without the new owner's knowledge. When they did discover what Fadi had done, they left him in no doubt about their feelings.
If you value your life and your wife's life and your health, you'll return my f***ing car now!
He had with him a mobile phone and he had recorded a conversation with this woman.
Right, this is a civil matter in court.
No, this isn't! No, I'm telling you! If you don't return that car, I'm going to come down to your house and your legs are going to be broken. And this is no idle threat.
There's money outside.
It's my f***ing car, you stupid bastard! Now I want my car back now, or you're f***ing dead! And your wife's going to be f***ing dead and all!
I took the phone from Mr. Nasri because I didn't want to play it again, and that was taken away from him to download the content of the telephone conversation. It appeared to be a logical conclusion that these people may have come down to London and stabbed Nisha.
As this promising line of inquiry was pursued, police also began building up a detailed picture of their victim. It emerged that Nisha, a British-born Asian, had lived in Wembley for almost all her life. She was well known locally and had no known enemies.
Nisha was always the bubbly one running around. She was a godmother to 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy. She loved children, you know, and she would do anything for children. You know, she would take them out, she would buy them gifts, she would help organise their birthday parties.
Since the age of 18, Nisha had run Perfections, a successful hairdressing salon with more than 2,000 regular clients. At 26, she married Fadi. And to those who knew them, they were a happy, loving couple.
Nisha was very happy with Fadi. He was really affectionate. If you saw them in public, they're very physical. They didn't care who was around. They were happy at the time, yeah.
Despite her busy work and home life, Nisha enjoyed sport, particularly swimming. She also found time to volunteer as an unpaid special constable.
She just basically said to me that I want to be able to let kids play on the streets without their parents having to worry that whether their kids are going to come home at night. You know, she wanted to provide a safe environment for the community, and she wanted to be part of it.
The task of filling in Nisha's background fell to the police family liaison officer, Sid Shenoy. His job also involved taking routine statements about everyone's movements on the night of the murder, and that included her grieving husband, Fadi.
I asked him to recount everything from the previous day. He said he went round to where Nisha's workplace was, met up with Nisha. Nisha had then cut his and her brother Caton's hair. Following on from that, they'd come back home. He said he left the salon at about 11 or 11:05.
It was the day after their 3rd wedding anniversary. Fadi had prepared a meal for his wife. After they'd finished eating, he planned to meet a friend for a game of snooker.